I've been living here in Germany for 2 years now. Now, has it been amazing? Frustrating? Totally different than what I expected? Well, it's kind of a bit of everything. You're always gonna be a foreigner that speaks very good German. And now actually a lot of groceries are cheaper here than in Hungary. I feel like Germany has really been a breath of fresh air for me. So in this video, I'll be sharing my honest experience about what it has been like living in Germany as an expat, what I love, the things that have been really tough, and the things that completely surprised me. So if you're thinking about moving to Germany, this video is for you. Keep watching. Moving abroad is always exciting, but also always a challenge. You go through a lot of cultural shocks, a lot of things you need to adapt to, a lot of things to learn, and a lot of new friends to be made. After 2 years, I adapted to a lot of things and learned a lot of things about people here and their mindset, and also a lot of things that really surprised me. I think Germany is a great place to live, but not for everyone. You really have to be able to adapt to the culture here, to be able to make the most out of it and be happy here. So let's get right into it. The first thing, the things I love. One of the things I really appreciate here is the work-life balance. People really respect your time off here. So if you're on a vacation or if you just said you're not working anymore for the day, people really respect that. They don't try to reach out to you, they don't call you, they don't even know your private phone number, so they really can't reach you if you don't pick up the company phone. No one really expects you to answer emails or pick up calls if it's 10 p.m. and not something where you're a manager not paid by the hour and you actually just have to deliver whatever is needed. So if you're just a normal employee, this is amazing. You just have to dial in the 40 or 38, 35 hours a week that you need to, and outside of that, no one is going to bother you with stuff from work. And that I find amazing. The other thing is the number of paid vacations. So legal limit is actually 20, but most companies nowadays offer around 30 or even sometimes a bit more, because in a lot of industries, it's actually now industry standard to offer 30. So if a company offers less than that, they're not gonna be attracting the best candidates. Similarly, you also get on top of that a lot of public holidays and bridge days. So with public holidays here in Bavaria, in Munich, is actually the best because we've got the most out of all regions in Germany. And we also have a lot of bridge days, which means if a public holiday falls on a Tuesday or a Thursday, then you get the bridge to the weekend, so Monday or Friday off. Normally you either have to take that as vacation or you take some over hours and compensate it that way. And I find that really good because then you get a really long weekend and you can actually schedule your vacations in a way that makes the most sense in terms of how many vacation days you take off and how much time you actually have of integrating the weekends into that as well. Coming from a culture where overworking is normalized and people are encouraged to kind of put in more hours than they actually need to, this was such a nice change, and it actually showed me the importance of taking time off from work as well. Similarly, moving on to the next point that I really like here is the high quality of life. So healthcare, for example, is top notch here. Thankfully, I have private health insurance, and that also means I can go to the best doctors and they really look out for me. And also in the statutory health insurance scheme and the normal doctors as well, I find that my friends have really good healthcare and there is just nothing to be complained about except maybe some longer wait times. But coming from a country where you have to wait up to 1 year for a brain MRI, for example, that happened to me, where they need to scan to double check something and you have to wait a full year. Here, I got an MRI within 2 weeks. The difference is very big. Even though here, obviously, the wait lists are still long, they could be shorter, but coming from a culture where it's just impossible to get appointments, impossible to get anything done within maybe a month or so, it is such a big difference. And it helps me out so much mentally that even if anything big happens, I know I'll be in good hands here. Similarly, the groceries here aren't crazy expensive. Of course, I know there was a lot of inflation in the previous couple of years, and that is affecting more and more people. However, again, coming from a country like Hungary, where the VAT on food actually is 27%, and that means everything is so much more expensive. The same things produced in Hungary and it's marked as being made in Hungary are actually cheaper in Germany because of certain factors like the lower VAT, And that is just really mind-blowing here, because obviously still the wages are higher and the groceries are now cheaper in comparison. And now actually a lot of groceries are cheaper here than in Hungary, where the average wage is probably a half or a third of what people make here in Germany. That means with the exact same budget, I can actually buy better food here in Germany than back in Hungary when I go home for a couple of weeks. For example, here with the same budget, I can buy bio milk, I can buy bio products, I can buy a lot of fresher things. Whereas in Hungary, where a lot of that is actually produced, things are so much more expensive and people are really suffering over there because they can't afford the basic necessities. And that actually leads me to my next point, which is actually people's attitudes towards each other, towards life, towards their environment. So I know there's a lot of discourse online and offline about how Germans are constantly complaining, they're bitter about life, but then you haven't been to Hungary. Coming from that culture where people are so stressed out, and that is also because their quality of life is going down. There are more and more people who can't afford basic necessities, and the middle class has simply disappeared. So a lot of people are so stressed out because they don't know where the next meal is coming from. They're living basically paycheck to paycheck, or they don't know how they're gonna pay their next bills. This is where they become so irritated and stressed, and you can see that in the shops, on the streets. For example, the thing that really shocked me was driving culture as well. A lot of people say here in Germany, people are not that considerate in driving and they're impatient, but I actually found that to be the opposite. Again, this is all perspective based, but in Hungary, for example, at a red light, if you don't start going within half a second, they will honk at you. Whereas here, they're a bit more patient, so they don't honk at you immediately. And I don't see this kind of all-encompassing stress that I see on people in Hungary. So definitely people might be complaining, but ultimately they're complaining but not stressing out on life. So then again, I think this is something that I really appreciated in Germany, and it was a stark contrast between the two when I came here, that people here are just much more relaxed. They seem to enjoy life even though they're complaining, but it's not something where it's so deeply ingrained and so stressful for them that it affects everyday life and the way they relate to other people, even just strangers on the street. It also shows when you just go out and look in the park as well. So for example, in Germany, I was really surprised that a lot of people are very, very active. They're outdoors all the time and they seem quite happy. So even elderly people here seem very active. Whereas in Hungary, a lot of elderly people will just sit at home in the couch in front of the TV, and they would be wasting away their years in retirement with that, or just trying to save money and not doing anything much. So overall, again, this is just a matter of perspective, but coming from Hungary, where people are so stressed, I feel like Germany has really been a breath of fresh air for me, and I really enjoy people being so positive and so kind to each other here. Now, having said that, of course, not everything has been so rosy. For example, one of the things I definitely do not enjoy is the bureaucracy in Germany. Now, I thought I was prepared because everyone kept saying bureaucracy is bad, and I am quite an organized person, even when it comes to papers and all of that. However, Germany is a different level. For example, there are so many things that are not digitalized. Healthcare, for example. In Hungary, there is a central system now where if you go to a doctor, everyone will input their data into the system. And if you go to a doctor, they will see all your history, all of your other things, but you can also log in and see your test results or what the doctors have said. And I was so surprised that in Germany, nothing like that existed. Because, if you go to a doctor, how are they supposed to see your history? Or if you land in the hospital unconscious, for example, how are they going to know if you have any allergies or any big things that they should be paying attention to? Other than that, a lot of things come through the mail, which is so unusual to me. And so I'm very thankful that we actually bought a printer off the bat when we moved here, because we went through so much printing in the past 2 years. We actually did not own a printer back in Hungary, only my parents had one, but it was sufficient for us because it was maybe once a month that we had to print something out and we could just visit my parents and do it then. But here, that would have been impossible. We went through so much paper, so much ink, and there's just a lot to be done on paper here that needs to also be filed away, stored. And that is something that I do not enjoy, even though I scan a lot of it, but then that still needs to be filed away. The next thing that I don't really enjoy here in Germany is actually the winter weather. So in Hungary, it was also the same. I also didn't enjoy it there. At least here, I feel like there are some sunny days where it's actually really beautiful. For example, we went on a hike near the Eibsee and it was snowy but sunny. So the nature there looked amazing with all the white and the snow and the sun. However, there are also a lot of days where it's just gray and dark, where it's kind of wet, but it's not like a crisp snow on the ground, but rather just like gray slush. And I really don't enjoy that because it lasts so long, the days are then very short, and it feels very isolating as well. However, when summer and spring arrives, I think Germany is really beautiful. It's amazing. You can go outdoors again, and it just all looks very pretty. I also feel like people here really know how to enjoy the good weather, so they really start being out in the beer gardens, outdoors, hiking in the good weather. But even in winter, there's a lot of winter sports that they do, but I personally am just not into those. However, lastly, the thing that really is difficult, and this is not specific to Germany, but also to all expat life, is being very far from family. Now, Munich is a city we chose for the exact reason that it's still kind of close to Hungary, so if anything happens, we can be there in around 6 to 8 hours. However, just going back and forth really takes a toll on me because it ultimately almost takes a full day for us to be able to go home with all the packing and getting into the car and all of that. But then also I want to go home as frequently as possible. So that usually entails me going home every 2 or 3 months or so, but sometimes it's every 6 weeks or so. Again, that is very nice because I get to see family and I can be at home, but it is also very difficult because in those times I feel like I put my life on hold and I cannot do anything that I would normally do here. I fall out of my routine. And then when I come back here, it's also difficult because I'm away from family. So it's kind of a situation where in both cases there's something not good about the situation, and that just makes it very, very difficult. Also, planning all of these trips can be really exhausting, just coordinating everything with work, with family, how we're going, when we're going, and that is also something that can take a toll on your mind. So, for example, for me, thankfully, I don't have to plan out too much because we go by car, so we don't really need to plan in advance with the tickets and when exactly we get going. But then again, still, it's a full day set aside just to go and then come back, and then you also have to pack a bit, so everything just compounds a bit, and it is really exhausting. But also missing family is something that will definitely not be easier over time. Now it's currently my 6th year living away from family, and it is definitely not easy. I thought I would get more used to it, but I don't think it's ever gonna get very easy. And talking about that, there are some things that really were unexpected to me. So one of the things that people say when you move to Germany is you're always going to be a foreigner. So even if you speak the language to a perfect level, you have German friends, you integrated, you've been living here for 20 years, you're always gonna be a foreigner that speaks very good German. Now, that is a thing that I thought would bother me a lot, especially at the beginning because I don't speak German. Turns out it actually doesn't bother me too much. The reason is probably twofold. One is probably because Munich is a very international city. So a lot of my friends are also couples where one of them would be someone international, someone and the other would be someone German. And I feel like it is not that different. We are also foreigners, we are also expats or technically immigrants, and I don't find that being a foreigner is such a foreign feeling to me. Now, the reason behind why this might not bother me so much is probably because I somewhat felt like a foreigner all my life, no matter where I go. Being born in a Vietnamese family in Hungary back then in the 90s, it really meant that you were the only Asian person in the whole class, the whole school even. And even though I spoke the language perfectly, I went to school there, I always kind of felt like a foreigner. And I didn't 100% fit in. There would always be some kind of mini culture shocks, or sometimes when I was just about to forget it, people would kind of bring it up in some way, shape, or form. So I guess because of that, I am just very used to the fact of feeling like a foreigner, and it's almost like it doesn't feel weird to me anymore. Having said that, I think Germany is more similar to Hungary, and that is also why I don't feel too much like a foreigner, because when I was in the UK, I definitely felt more like a foreigner than here. While as when I was in the UK, I spoke English to a C2 level, and here in Germany, I barely speak any German at all. So again, I think for me, it is really about just the fact that it is very similar to the environment I grew up in, even though I don't speak the language, and it is not something that really frustrates me or stands out to me anymore. So, summing up the first 2 years here in Germany, I think it was an amazing time so far, and I'm really looking forward to the next couple of years as well. I'm really excited to learn how things unfold once I start speaking better German and can start conversations with other people in German as well, and also how my group of friends will evolve based on that. So, what about you? Are you thinking about moving to Germany or are you already here? Let me know in the comments below and let's go on this journey together. So make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell to be notified on more content on expat life, language learning, business, productivity, and all of that. So I'll see you in the next video then. Bye bye!